Welcome in, everybody, to the first episode of the first annual Jim and Kyle podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We're here to talk about you and our fantasy football league. It's going to be me and Jim. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be a good time. Just enhancing the league, making it a little more fun for everyone, and have some fun banter between everybody. And hopefully, we can make this a little more exciting every year for everyone involved.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Hopefully, a person or two listens. If not, we'll just make it a weekly thing to shoot the shit about football. And that's fine too.
Perfectly cool with that myself.
So we'll probably kind of feel the show out as it goes. We have a loose format for this one, but we'll see how things play out. We'll probably start most episodes talking about the NFL, matchups, upsets, whatever might have happened the week before, injuries that may have happened that might affect fantasies, people we think you should pick up. Take our advice for what it is. And then we'll kind of go into the actual fantasy matchups, talk about how the teams look at the next week's matchups, and maybe make some predictions. And then I'm sure we'll get into some debates and things along the way. So we're going to make some rules. Jim and I discussed beforehand, if we come across a bet on something, you might think wide receiver X will score more than wide receiver Y this season. We'll have a bet for a shot on the next podcast.
And then I'll be a weekly thing.
Yeah, we plan to do it weekly. We'll probably record on Tuesdays so that all the matches can be done already. Tuesdays or Wednesdays or when they work. We'll notify when they're posted. This week we don't have any matchups to talk about, obviously. We do have upcoming matchups which we can address. But so we figured this week we'll just kind of go over the draft, what we thought of it, what teams we think were good, what teams we don't think are good, and kind of go from there. Yeah, so the first talking point that I figured we could talk about is, what was your favorite roster, Jim, besides your own team?
Besides my own. Actually, I don't think my own team's even my favorite roster, so that would probably go into this. But I actually really like Vicky's team. I thought she had a really solid team from top to bottom. One of the things I forgot about when we were drafting today, or this week, was we have 3 receivers. I thought after we talked, I forgot that was going to be for next year. So I drafted at the intent that I already had like my roster set. So my flex wasn't the best. But Vicky, I think she did what a lot of fantasy footballers should do, is just wait on quarterback. She waited late. I think she got rewarded with a really strong roster from top to bottom. She has 2 kind of almost bell call running backs, I believe. I think Najee Harris might lose some carries to that one backup. Unfortunately, I forgot his name. I'm not following stuff as close as I used to. But the other backup for Pittsburgh could eat into his stats, but he's going to be a solid running back. And I think with their new quarterback and Russell Wilson, I think he's going to be a top 15, top 20 running back this year. She's got pretty much 5 or 6 receivers deep, so she'll always be able to find something for her flex spot. And then she went with like a high upside quarterback in Caleb Williams, and then the kind of high floor guy in Jared Goff, which is normally how I like to play my fantasy leagues. So I really think she's got a solid team. I think she's in a position to really fight for another championship. What about you?
I like Vicky's team too, actually. I think is it Jalen Warren? Is that the name? Is that Najee's backup?
Yeah, Jalen Warren.
Jalen Warren. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Najee still seems to be the bell cow there, though. I mean, the whole time he's been there, he's kind of the pounder. Jalen Warren looks good, but it seems like Najee's always the one who gets the touchdowns and the important points. But yeah, actually, I put 3 down that I liked a lot. Your team was actually one of them. You had Jamar Chase off the bat, which if Burrows is healthy and he plays like he used to when he had his healthy seasons, I mean, he's probably the best thrower of the football besides Mahomes in the NFL. And Jamar Chase could easily end as wide receiver 1. Then you had Derrick Henry. That guy could have 20 touchdowns on the Ravens this year, even if he only gets 800 yards.
One of the things I like about Henry too, and this is something that I did more when I, played a lot of fantasy leagues and tried to really get hammer out things, is I'll go look at Vegas odds and over unders. And like his over under on touchdowns is like 10.5 right now. So I feel like he's very undervalued. I think he should still be considered like a top 5 running back. But I think really there's perception that Lamar Jackson is going to take a lot of touchdowns away from him because, oh, running quarterback, they score touchdowns. But what people don't realize is Lamar Jackson isn't built like Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. He's not a goal line runner like those guys can be. So like I think what Lamar had 5 rushing touchdowns last year, and most of them were outside of like the 15. So I feel like this is the best offense Derrick Henry's ever played on, and he's going to just eat at the red zone because he doesn't have that quarterback to take away from him. So yeah, I was a huge fan of Henry. Almost every draft I did, mock draft, was taking Henry in round 2. I didn't even want to take a running back round 1 because I loved Henry so much, and I always wanted to start with at least a receiver in the first 2 rounds, and I didn't really like the receivers that came back on the swing. And obviously, Jamar Chase falling to me. That was one of the players. Him or Justin Jefferson are the 2 guys I was really eyeing up there, and I was pretty happy to see him fall to me.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my exact thoughts on Henry too. Like you said, best offense he's ever been on. And Lamar Jackson, yeah, he's a runner, but yeah, he's also older than those other 2 guys,
True.
and just he's going to run less every year. I feel like.
Yeah, that's very
But
typical for those type of quarterbacks. It's very, very true.
yeah. Then you had Drake London, who's he's talented. He's finally got a quarterback, so we'll see what he does this year. Waddle, yeah, he had that down year last year, but for the most part, Waddle's been pretty good. I think last year people just got soured on him because he was kind of drafted too high.
That could be.
And then
I built an upside just if Tyreek Hill goes down because then he probably becomes almost like a pseudo like top 12 receiver at that point. Right now he's probably like what, top 20, top 15.
yeah, then down your list, yeah, you had Jalen Hurts, which I put down as that was one of the best values of the draft. You got him late. You did pick him over Josh Allen, I guess, but
Yeah, I had a hard time with
still,
that.
you got all the way to the 6th round before you had to get like quite possibly the number 1 quarterback. I think he was number 1 last year.
He's definitely number 1 on my board. So I was pretty happy to see him there. When the quarterbacks were going, I was like, I'm not a big quarterback drafter, but at that point, when you feel like that's the best guy in the draft and he's sitting there around 5, I mean, you had him last year. He's kind of a difference maker. He's 20 points every week. His touchdown
Yeah,
make his floor like insane. Like he never has bad weeks.
yep. It's the beauty of the running quarterback. You get guaranteed production because they're always going to get like 50, 60 yards even when the games are going poorly because they're always trying to make something happen. And I also put one more team. It's Poor Boy. I like his team.
Really?
In the poll, I actually voted for him to have the lowest points, but
That's what I was gonna say. Like everyone voted for him to be the lowest points.
Yeah.
I saw me with 2 votes and Poor with 3, so I just thought it was funny. Actually, I like his team too. I thought it was kind of funny. I think people are just giving him shit, because it's Poor Boy, and they're like, "Hey, Poor Boy, we'll just vote for him." But yeah, I think he's got a solid team.
Yeah, I mean, I put it down. I put the poll down, then I looked at it quick, and I was like, well, he's got the lowest projected. I'm just gonna vote because it took me like 3 hours to get those schedules set up. It took so long. I kept setting them all up, and I did get to like the last 4 players, and I just couldn't make it work to balance to make sure everyone played each other once. So by the time I put that poll up, I was like, I'm done. I'm logging off this site. I'm done with this. But yeah, Poor Boy. I mean, he got CeeDee Lamb, which like, another wide receiver that could easily be number 1. Kamara, he's getting older, but he gets so many dump offs. That half-point PPR just that can add up so fast for him. I mean, Rachaad White, he was awesome last season. Stephon Diggs, you got questions there. Calvin Ridley's on a new team, but he's going to be the primary receiver on that team. So I'm hoping it goes better for Calvin Ridley this year. Keenan Allen, Kyler Murray is a great value, I think, too. How late he got him.
My draft strategy is Jalen Hurts if he gets in the 5th-ish round. Kyler Murray next, which would be probably kind of where Poor Boy took him, was at round 8-ish, round 8, 9. And if I can't get Kyler Murray, then I was just tanking for probably just taking like Caleb Williams and like Kirk Cousins. That would have been my strategy otherwise. Yeah, I love Kyler Murray. I think people kind of forget like how good he was when he was healthy. He was like always a top three quarterback. You know, he's maybe not as good as someone like Jalen Hurts when it comes to just like that floor. He's got higher variance, but at the same time, the dude runs like a 4.4 flat. He's just incredible as a runner. He just got Marvin Harrison Jr., who might be the best receiving prospect since Calvin Johnson. So, like, you finally give this guy just a crazy good deep threat receiver that basically checks every box. And he also has a really good tight end too, Trey McBride. A lot of people are picking that guy in the top four. And you got um, where did we lose? Where did
Yeah,
Junior go?
McBride
Junior
went
went.
early in our draft. He went very beginning of round what 5?
McBride went four,
Yeah.
round four. I was looking for where Marvin Harrison Jr. went, but like anyway, a lot of people are taking Harrison Jr. in the second round. I saw in drafts, so it's like you're saying like he's got a top five tight end and a top 15 receiver, and he's going like almost as like barely a quarterback one, so barely a top 12 quarterback. I mean, I think Kyler Murray could finish top three. I would honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was a top three quarterback. So yeah, that's an incredible pick.
Yeah, same thing. Like you said, I think he doesn't get as much recognition as a runner because he's the smaller of the running quarterbacks, so he doesn't like punch into the end zone as often. But he gets the yards off it, which is just such a huge floor of points to start every week with.
Right, he's good for probably like 50 yards a game. I would imagine. I'm
Yeah,
not stats in front of me, but I would imagine he's around that as a career average, around 50, 30 to 50 yards, somewhere in there. But either way, that's an extra couple points every week. Is there any
yeah.
you like?
Any what?
Any other teams that you like?
Those are the three that I kind of looked at. Um, Not a huge fan of my own team, but I feel like that's always how I feel like after the draft.
I mean, just to talk about your team. Well, what made you kind of push to the heavy Chief team? I guess you have a couple Chief players. It seems like it was almost like a focus of yours.
Well, the Chiefs, number one, they're fun to watch, and for me, like I do want to win, but it's fun to watch your players, and it's fun when your players are on a good team. So on Sundays, it's an extra game that I enjoy watching, other than the Packers game. And it just adds the excitement when you have more players on there. Um, yeah, it was really just Carson took a quarterback. I figured quarterbacks might start rolling. I kind of wanted to get a good quarterback. It was the fourth round. I figured Mahomes has a good chance of ending number one this year because his last year was not great. And I kind of talked to you at the draft about it, but
Yeah,
you got to imagine Mahomes is annoyed last year when everyone's talking about, Dak Prescott MVP or Brock Purdy MVP or Lamar Jackson MVP, and like nobody even mentions Patrick Mahomes as like the MVP candidate last year. Like there's Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey were getting more talk about MVP than Mahomes was. So I presume he probably talks to the coach and says, dude, I want to throw up more. I mean, he wants to win. He wants to win Super Bowls, obviously, but I'm sure he wants to show off his skill too.
oh, absolutely. I think he might be similar to like what happened in the NBA. Nikola Jokic won like what three of the last four MVPs. He probably should have won four in a row. And I think that's kind of the same thing that plagues Pat Mahomes is that they kind of have that same thing where it's like it's almost boring that they're always the favorite to win it. They're just incredible players. And I think Pat Mahomes, yeah, he's come in that Tom Brady, Peyton Manning category where it's like you could literally give it to him every year and it would probably be right. So then it's like if he has even a slight down year, it's just like he's just off the list. Even though his slight down here is probably still better than 99% of quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Like he's had a year where the defense was good, so they didn't score nearly as many points, and they ran the ball, they ran the clock because they could. But I thought Rashee Rice was really coming on. By the end of the season, he looked like a pretty legitimate, talented, wide receiver, yards after the catch guy for Mahomes. Mahomes like seemed to trust him in the back half quite a bit. Not as much as Kelsey, obviously, but I feel like Kelsey's older. I feel like they're gonna try not to get him beat up during the season because they know they're probably gonna win the division and go to the playoffs. So like they're not gonna try to get up. They're gonna try to keep Kelsey as healthy as possible. And in the playoffs, the actual NFL playoffs, I'm sure Kelsey will be an absolute fucking beast like he always is. But I think he's gonna have a lower production actual fantasy football season. And that's kind of reflected. I think everyone kind of thought that. That's why he's a, third, fourth rounder now instead of a consensus first rounder.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And with Rasheed Rice, his stats spiked near the end of the year, and I think I saw something. Someone took like his last couple games in playoffs, and he was on pace for like 1,400 yards and like 9 touchdowns, which is top 12 receiver every year if you get that kind of stat. So if he keeps the pace that he was on at the end when Mahomes really started to trust him, he is probably a steal. And he also had that baked in value where he had the suspension kind of roaming around his head, and I think that kind of dropped a little bit. I think if you were doing a draft today, you'd probably go another round or two earlier than you even took him because of that. I think that's kind of where he was getting docked for.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, if it weren't for the whole legal situation, which I guess is still kind of foggy, yeah, I think he would have been like a third or fourth round guy pretty easily based on how he finished last year.
Yeah, agree 100%.
So other things about the draft, you got the draft board in front of you now. Is there any like player that stands out to you as like that guy took him too early? Like what's the biggest reach you think of this draft board that you're looking at? I honestly think like overall, in years past this would have been a way easier decision. I feel like someone always grabs someone super early. Um, Carson's is always known as like, yeah, I'm taking a quarterback in the first 2 rounds. So it'd be really easy to point to that, but he was more responsible this year. Richard, I feel like does weird stuff too a lot of years. And this year he seemed more responsible. Like as we were going down, like I, nothing stood out super big during the draft when we were doing it. I did pick out one just for the content's sake, but I don't even think it was that. Don't really think it was egregious at all.
Well,
Um,
actually, I was
Go
helping
ahead.
a buddy who was in a $100 buy-in league. $100 buy-in league. You would expect these guys are going to take it pretty serious, right? And this is his first year drafting, really. So I helped him through the draft after, or like a couple hours after our draft. And I was thinking, man, this is going to be really competitive. So I kind of give him all these rundowns and like, what are the main things you do in a fantasy draft to avoid? And I'm like, don't take two quarterbacks pretty much at all. If you get a top quarterback, you never want to take a second quarterback. If you do have like, kind of a lower tier guy, then you might want to take a backup for him. But that's one of those taboo things. Don't really do it. Same thing with defenses. Don't take two defenses. Don't take a kicker. And I'm like, and also don't take your defense kicker till the last round. $100 buying league. The first kicker went in like round 7. Every team had like two quarterbacks by like round 9. And I asked them, like, is this a 2 quarterback league? And we looked, no, it wasn't a 2 quarterback league or anything. And it was crazy. I think Isaiah Pacheco went like 4th overall or 5th overall. And I was just like, man, if you want to talk about crazy drafts, that would have been it. There was a number of them. But yeah, I think I really love how everyone has really taken this league seriously over the last couple of years. And like this league was made almost just to kind of throw some picks out and have some kind of crazy fun drafts and help teach some of the girls how to play. And like honestly, they're more competitive than half the guys in the league now, and they're definitely trying. So it's really cool to see that. And I think the quality of our drafts in this league are better than some of the drafts I've been in our more competitive leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I think the trophy speaks for itself. It might have more female names on it than than male names at this point,
I think of
or
3.
it's damn close if not. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, back to the biggest reach. I mean, it's not even that much of a reach, but the one I picked out was Lee picking Jordan Love in the 5th round, which isn't that bad, but I feel like there were. I mean, if you really believe Jordan Love's gonna up his touchdowns from last year and up his yards, which he might, but he was the 3rd overall quarterback taken. He went above Jalen Hurts. He went above Josh Allen. Um, Joe Burrow, yeah,
Yeah, I
Kyler
feel like
Murray.
he should have
He
back
went
to
above a lot of quarterbacks that are like known, you know, producers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would have felt, maybe more comfortable with him near the Kyler Murray range, somewhere around there. Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love. I think those are kind of like those guys who haven't proven it to be like in the top 3, but they could easily end there in the right situation. But yeah, I would consider that a reach. And actually, for what my choice was, it's probably close, but I felt like Karsten's taking David Njoku in the 5th round is pretty high. David Njoku is a pretty solid player, but he doesn't really have the best quarterback. Obviously, they spent a lot of money for their quarterback, but generally, I like to have a tight end that has just an elite quarterback because they seem to produce better. I don't know why. I don't know if like individual skill level matters as much for tight ends. So that worries me a little bit, and I just don't know if he's on the same level as some of the guys that got drafted around him, like Sam Laporta, or I shouldn't say Sam Laporta. You got Mark Andrews, and you got Kyle Pitts, Trey McBride, all in that kind of same area. And I think all those guys are substantially better. So that was one of the reaches I thought was David Njoku. But other than that, yeah, I agree. There wasn't a whole lot of like crazy overdrafted players this year.
Yeah, and I'll say too about Njoku because I wound up with him at the end of the season last year after the one trade that happened all year last year. He was awesome down the stretch. He was just yeah. I mean, he's probably the reason that I managed to squeak out a victory last season. Um, but he was only good after Deshaun Watson left. Like when Deshaun Watson was there, he wasn't doing that much. So it kind of makes me worried. But now that Deshaun Watson's back, if how often he actually looks at the tight end versus try to scramble and chuck it way downfield, because that's kind of been his thing. It's kind of his claim to fame and what made him great for a long time.
Right. And then you got to realize that like Jerry Judy got traded there too. So they have another mouth to feed. So even if he is, let's say, playing a little better with, you know, the current situation, he's still going to have more mouths to probably go up against. And that could hurt him a little bit as well. But I mean, yes, he's a crazy athletic player. So he's got the potential. I mean, he was drafted in the first round for a reason. And at the time, people thought he was one of the most athletic players in the league. So, I mean, he's 7 or 6 years removed from being drafted, but he's still up there. He still has potential. So he could definitely be as good as the guys he's around, and just he's a little riskier.
Yeah, and like I said, it's early. Like he's super athletic. The season can end, and both these guys will look like they got him at just an absolute value. Because the way Jordan Love ended last season, he might throw the most touchdowns this year. It's definitely possible. Njoku is crazy talented. It took him a long time to get going in the NFL, but same thing. He has the talent to be the number one tight end this year too.
Yeah, totally agree. I could even put an honorable mention for a player on my team. I honestly think at the end of this, we might be laughing because I took Nick Chubb in round 8. He might not even play that much. That could have been a terrible pick.
Yeah, I feel like there's a player like that every year. Like they got hurt last year. It's like a stud, an absolute bona fide badass. And it's almost always a running back. They got hurt the year before. They're coming back this year, but it's always just a question of how are they going to perform when they come back? Do they ease them in for 4 weeks and then maybe you finally get like 3 good games at the end of the season because they played it safe and they look like they think they're a playoff team, so they don't want to use them. Yeah, I feel like there's someone like that almost every season.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, injuries in general are just a death knell for running backs. And I mean, Nick Chubb completely blew out his knee a second time. So I mean, it's concerning. But I mean, the guy was just deadlifting like 600 pounds just like a couple of weeks ago and was making cuts. It's like, I mean, he almost seems like he's not even human. So hopefully he proves us all wrong. But the reports after our draft is that Jerome Ford is going to get a really heavy look in the early season, and they're not really sure when Chubb's going to come back. So like even like week 5, week 6 doesn't seem realistic. It might be like week 8, week 9, week 10, and then that's when that pick really starts to hurt me because I don't know if I'm going to be relevant in the playoffs by that time. Because if you're missing a really valuable slot early on, you're going to lose some games. So we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah.
that was a really risky pick. It's probably actually one of the biggest swing picks in the whole draft. If Chubb plays week 5, that's going to make my team pretty solid. But if he doesn't, yeah, I'm going to be having a hard time. I'm going to be climbing uphill. I'm going to be spending a lot of money on the fab budget early in the season to find a replacement.
Yeah, I think that's about all the things I had to talk about for the actual draft. Um, the loser punishment was fun. I'm glad we did that. I think it'll be even better next year. Yeah, I think the change from the slap to the knighting will add more degrading factor, more embarrassment factor.
Yeah, I
And
think I don't want that on film. So
yeah,
I
right.
mean, very much could talk for anyone. I think no one wants that on film. So yeah, I think that's a lot more embarrassing because no one's gonna hit anyone hard. No one's gonna want to like cause any drama. So like the knighting, that was a great idea. I can't wait to do that.
Shout out to Tubby. He's the one who thought of it.
Oh really?
I just passed it on. Yep.
He's good for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What else we have to talk about today? Oh yeah. So should we talk about our year-long bet of who's gonna win the NFC North this season?
Absolutely.
I mean, at first, I guess who do you think is gonna win the NFC North?
Well, I think everyone comes in a big surprise when I think the Chicago Bears will. I'm just kidding. Everyone knows I'm picking the Detroit Lions. I think it's the best team I've ever seen in my lifetime. There was some teams in the 90s when I was younger with Barry Sanders that were really good, but they were always plagued by, I think, poor quarterback play and injuries. This team is just solid from top to bottom. I don't really know if there's even a weakness on our roster, and I think they got better. Unlike a lot of the other top teams in the NFL, I think they got not substantially better, but definitely quite a bit better. They got, man, I feel like I'm not as up to par as I used to be with my football knowledge, but we did sign a defensive tackle from Cincinnati. I can't think of his name right now, but he's one of the best run stoppers in the league, and we're putting him on our defensive line. We already have Hutchinson, who supposedly is just even destroying Penei Sewell in practice. Like they're saying, he just looks like another animal this year compared to what he's been the first 2 years. So I think he's going to hit that third year and being like MVP or defense player of the year consideration. Um, and obviously, if you look at my fantasy team, I drafted Jameson Williams. I feel like Jameson Williams is going to prove everyone either right or wrong, however you believe about him. But he was my favorite receiver in the draft, and he went. And there was some pretty crazy names in that draft. Drake London. You got the guy from the Jets. What's his name? Garrett Wilson. You got Olave. I mean, there was a lot of crazy good receivers in that draft, and I thought Williams was the best one. And I think from this, I mean, it's hard to tell because training camp is always going to be positive, but it sounds like they said even our GM said that like he was a kid and he needed to grow up, and he did, and he's been kind of unstoppable in practices. And I think with all that said, the team improving and then now having like a legitimate deep threat, I think they're gonna be really hard to stop, and I think they're gonna be Super Bowl favorites. So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Lions.
Lions. A shocking bet. Um, I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said. Is it Jameson Williams? This is his third season in the NFL then?
Third season. Yep.
Yeah.
First year
But
he was on IR. Second year,
yeah, he missed the whole season, right? And then
this is
the
first
second
real.
season he didn't even start the season the second season either, did he?
Well, that's because he had the gambling thing. So he was suspended for
That's why he missed, yeah,
half the
like
year.
4 weeks or something like that, or 6 weeks.
Yep. And then I think they dropped it to 6 weeks. And then it took him a little while because he couldn't be by the team. So like
Yeah, he wasn't even allowed to practice with them.
Preseason, so he didn't even really play in preseason because that was the original plan. Is they were going to play him like all preseason just to get him like reps, and he got injured, so he missed all preseason. So he didn't really start to click until near the playoffs, and he was looking great. I mean, he almost single-handedly won us the championship game against the Niners. He had just some incredible plays in that game.
Yeah, the Lions were fantastic last year, and their offense is by and large should be the same, and they did shore up their defense. That was their biggest issue, which isn't unlike the Packers, I guess, which we didn't do a lot of personnel switches on our defense, but we did switch defensive coordinators. I've been a Packer fan for a long time. Our defense is almost always bottom half of the league defense, as it was again last year. Our offense, though, it's not akin to what the Lions did 2 years ago, where they just kind of came out of. People didn't really see it coming. The start of the season was not great, but by mid-season and on, they looked like they had figured it out. Jordan Love looks like a legit quarterback. I mean, he's paid like a legit top-tier quarterback now.
Legit quarterback, number one in the league.
Yeah. For now, we'll see if Dak Prescott gets a contract before the season starts.
Yeah, those things might last for a couple months at best.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was I think there were like 3 highest paid quarterbacks for a couple weeks this off season. That's just always how it goes. But I mean, if the Packers can figure out their defense, they should be a very legitimate playoff, a playoff team that can go deep in the playoffs, possibly win it all. But yeah, their young offense. It was awesome watching it last year. I mean, I think after week 6, I was pretty down on Jordan Love and the Packers in general. I honestly thought like this might be it. This might be the year that the ride is over and the Packers are finally going to suck again for a while. And then they kind of turned it around, just kept getting better and better. Jordan Love was making awesome throws. Every wide receiver on that team just looked good. Like every time they all kept getting hurt, but every next guy that stepped in, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He's doing good now. Who the fuck is this guy? They were getting down to like Bo Melton and random fucking names like that, having 100-yard touchdown games. It was a wild ride. And if they keep rolling off that, I don't see any reason why they can't win that division and go deep in the playoffs.
Now, is it win the division or are the favorites to win the division? Because yeah, I could see them win the division too. I think they're a pretty solid team. I think one of the reasons that Jordan Love really started to click mid-season was I think a lot of those receivers probably were in the practice squad or second stringers that were probably practicing with Love for the last couple of years, and I think they just kind of all knew how each other played, and I think it really helped. Like basically these guys didn't just get thrown in. They slowly built this up with each other for a couple of years. It was actually, I don't know if that was the intention, almost like building like an offense underneath Aaron Rodgers, but it almost seems like they did. Like all these guys kind of all meshed together. And then Aaron Rodgers kind of kept things afloat. And then once you pull out Aaron Rodgers, yeah, it took a little while for Jordan Love to really get used to I think NFL game speed. But once he got used to it, yeah, it just seemed like, I mean, I want to say he's on that same trajectory as Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, it looks like he could easily pull that off, or he could be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and I don't think anyone would be surprised.
All right, so we got it. It's official. You're going with the Lions. I'm going with the Packers. What did we say? We're just going to do a cash bet on this one? Oh no, we're going to do the jersey bet.
Jersey bet,
right?
For the next draft. Okay. The loser will have to own the enemy's jersey through the whole draft.
Yep. So next year, if the Packers win the division, Jim will be rocking a Packers jersey next year for the fantasy draft. If the Lions win, I will be rocking a Lions jersey for the draft next season. So look forward to it. And he mentioned we don't have any Bears fans this league, do we?
We do not.
No one's a Bears fan. Wild card, any chance they got of winning the division?
I personally think the Bears are scarier than the Packers. I think the Packers are good too. I don't think changing your defensive coordinator really does much. I do know there is some defense coordinators that do. I think the Vikings are a good example of that. They brought on the former Dolphins coach. Can't think of his name right now, but he took which was largely considered a very undermanned defense, and they were really good last year. So it can work, but I feel like a lot of Packer fans around here, they're just thinking, oh, change the defensive coordinator, everything's going to be better. But this is like the third or fourth time this has happened, and it's never gotten better. So I don't know if it's a coordinator issue as much as it's a talent issue. I think a lot of people think the Packers defense should be better because they have a lot of high-end, talent. But the Bears are kind of exactly what I think a lot of Packer fans think they are. I think the Bears have a lot of talent on their defense. I think they have a way better receiving core than pretty much anyone in the NFL. Like, I mean, their receiving core is stacked. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen is one of my favorite players of the last 10 years. And I guess he just looked absolutely dominant in practice. And then you added, maybe not the most hyped as the receivers, as Neighbors and Harrison, but they drafted a receiver too that was kind of considered the same category as those two, and Romeo Odunze. And
Odunze looks good.
So it's like, and then you added maybe the best quarterback prospect in the last couple of years, and he's kind of like a Pat Mahomes clone. Like he was doing all kinds of Pat Mahomes things in preseason. One thing, it is preseason, so we'll see what happens during the season, but like, they don't really have many weaknesses on their team. Yeah, they have a lot of new players, and it's going to probably take a little bit. They might be like the Packers, struggle early, but once they hit their stride, I'm worried about them. They're going to be really good.
They could be good. It's going to come down to Caleb Williams. If he comes out and he's a baller, then yeah, the Bears are going to be good. So what, you have the division ranked: Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings, I presume.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, mine would be Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings. I Caleb Williams is hyped. Everyone says he's so talented. I mean, I, I find it so hard to. And he does have an awesome situation, like you said. His wide receivers are stacked, but you see so many of these super hyped guys come to the NFL and just, especially when they get put in as a rookie, just not perform.
That's the
And
thing, though. They get put
he's
in.
got the better chance, like you said. He's got the better chance because they actually have a stacked offense around him. Usually,
Right.
the guy goes to the worst team who has a terrible O line and no receivers, and that's not the case this time. But well, I gotta wait and see it. I can't predict them being
This is
number two
probably
in the
the
division
best
yet.
offense a number one overall quarterback pick has ever been on, I think. Like, it's just as far as like the talent around him from day one. Because most time when you're the number one overall pick, you don't get that type of team. But they were a number one overall pick team. Like, they were actually pretty good mid-year last year. Their record was bad because of early on. I think Justin Fields might be the worst starter in the league. So like their team is pretty solid. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Definitely as a Packer and Lion fan for both of us, I think we should both be worried because Caleb Williams could be him.
Oh, that could be painful. If he's actually a legit superstar, that will be a painful. It'll be painful to be in this division. I mean, my whole life, it's the Packers have had the all-star quarterback, and
Right.
it
And something
would.
tells me Bears fans are
It,
gonna be way more suffering or sufferable for us than any other fan base.
they might be. They've felt your pain for a very long time. Um, Vikings, any shot at all?
I don't
We do
know.
have
Yeah,
we do have one Vikings fan in the league, so we should at least address it, I guess.
obviously Justin Jefferson. I think if you remove position from the league, he's the best player in the league. So that alone is that counts for something. That guy's insane. Um, their quarterback, I actually kind of like JJ McCarthy for getting injured. I mean, he looked like he could be solid, but yeah, I just don't know if I like Sam Darnold. I just don't trust him. I think their coach is kind of quarterback whisperer. I think he's going to get him to play pretty well, but I don't think it's going to be that much over like a replacement level quarterback. So I think they're going to struggle. I think they're going to have a hard time. I think they do have some decent pieces, but I think they're going to be one of those like middle of the road teams. I think 7-10, somewhere around there, 8-9. I think they're going to be competitive just because I think they have good coaching. I think they have some good players, but they're definitely gonna be looking up to the rest of the division.
Yeah, that's what's rough for them is the division is seemingly getting pretty stacked, and they're besides Justin Jefferson, they don't have any real glimmer or shine going on over there right now. If McCarthy had stayed healthy, then maybe. But yeah, I don't. Sam Darnold's bounced around so much. Like I feel like if he was something, we would have seen something by now. But you never know for sure. We had what 2 years ago, Geno Smith shows up on the Seahawks, and he was like a top 6, 7, 8 quarterback that year. I mean, he was good.
And I
He
could
was
see
in the
that with
same boat.
Darnold.
He bounced around, never did anything, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's good one year.
Darnold was always considered the guy who just didn't really have it all yet. He was more of like a hypothetical player when he was drafted, even though he went real high in third round or third overall pick. It was because of like he had the potential to be something that he wasn't yet. So maybe he eventually got there. Maybe being in the Niners under what's his name? Who's the coach of the Niners? Man, I'm so bad at this.
Shanahan.
Shanahan. That guy knows what he's doing. I mean, he's finding quarterbacks from everywhere. So, I mean, if he signed off on him, he thought he was pretty solid. And he was able to kind of give him some of that coaching that, the same thing he's gotten Purdy and yeah, I think he could be good, but yeah, I'm not gonna bet on it. He can
Yeah,
definitely be solid, but yeah. I think middle of the pack is the best they're gonna be this year.
yeah. I predict a slightly losing record. Part of it's just because of the division. I mean, that's. I feel like it's almost a guaranteed 6 losses right there. It's no, I shouldn't say that. They'll beat somebody. They'll get an upset in there somewhere.
Yeah, every team does. They're gonna beat
Division
teams.
teams play each other tough.
Right.
Um, so
It's
that's
gonna be
that's
that Aaron Jones comeback game.
it could be. It could be. I'm curious. I am really curious to see what Aaron Jones does on another team. I think he was so awesome with LaFleur, but I think LaFleur is a really good coach at getting. I don't know. The running backs just produce. Like Aaron Jones has always been so good when he's healthy.
If it's a system thing, the Vikings pretty much run the same system. So, I mean, I would almost expect some of the same statistics on the Vikings. I think he's going to have one more good year, but yeah, I'm kind of worried he's getting a little older. He might
I hope
slow
he does
down.
have a good year. I hope he stays healthy too. He's a super fun running back to watch.
He's an easy guy to cheer for. Even as a Lions fan, I can say that.
Mm-hmm. So that's the division. We got our bet for next season. We don't have any personal bet for like this week yet. Do you want to go over matchups? See if there's like a matchup you like, or if we can just bet on a random one, I guess.
That's like our teams versus other teams.
Yeah, or we could pick one matchup if there's one that interests you. I
Well,
mean, I'll go over them quick. We got
you thought Poor Boy and Vicky had with me the three best teams, right? I think Poor Boy and Vicky are playing each other, are they?
what do we have? No, poor boy plays Scoots this week.
I was
We
looking
don't
at
have
Toggle.
any couple matchups. Yeah, we don't have any like marquee matchup this week. Just the start of the season.
How about we just for this one, since we don't really have anything good, let's just vote on who wins KC versus Baltimore.
Opening
I
night.
feel like I know who you're picking, so I feel like we'll both be on different sides of this.
Oh, you think Baltimore's gonna win?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an easy one then. Yeah, I'll pick the Chiefs. And
I,
the Chiefs beat them every time they play each other. That's the whole
yeah, but
reason fucking Lamar Jackson can't get to the Super Bowl.
now he's got Derrick Henry.
Well, true.
And I think don't the Chiefs they're missing I guess they kind of knew they're gonna be without that one receiver. So I don't know, I think it's gonna be a good game. I thought Baltimore was gonna win the Super Bowl last year. So I still think they're pretty much the same team. I think they're the best team in the league when it comes to drafting. So even though they lost some starters, they always have maybe even a better player coming up. So I'm a big fan of Baltimore this year.
Well, all right. There's the bet. So we'll get a shot. Do you want to do what did I say we should do? Do Malort?
Malort, sure, that's
Shot of
tequila,
Malort
right?
to start the show. No, it's not tequila. I don't know what the hell it is. I don't think it's a. Might be considered like a liqueur. I don't think it's like a vodka or. It's made from lingonberry berries. I don't know. It makes it a mead. I don't know what it'd
Mead.
be. I mean, it's.
Well, I'll
I don't
try
think
it.
it's
It could be
80
really
proof, but
bad.
it's like 60 proof, and it's not good. You will not
Well,
enjoy it. Let's put it that way.
that's what we need. We need something we can enjoy. So, all right, that's perfect. So we'll bet a shot for next episode.
Okay. Do we want to go over week 1 matchups, or should we call her there?
If we want to keep it around 30 minutes, it's going to be hard because like we're already at 45. But I mean, obviously, we're going to
Okay.
do some.
Just a quick warning, the rest of this podcast gets pretty long-winded. We go into detailed analysis of every player in every matchup. Goes on for about an hour. There's some good content, but if you don't want to listen that long, we understand. If you do, we appreciate it. If you don't, thanks for listening, and tune in next week. Yeah, you can do a shot with us next time. It'll make it more
Right.
bearable.
How about this? If you are still listening to this right now, you can be the first guest on the next show. That's your reward. And they will have to message one of us to let us know that they are still listening right now.
Yeah.
And the first person that does it, that's the guest.
Yeah, there we go.
Do it.
All right, so I guess we'll go over matchups. I'll just go. I'm just gonna look at the ESPN fantasy cast, I guess, so I can see players. We got me versus Richard. Quarterback, I've got Mahomes versus Prescott, so I'd say I got the advantage there. His running back is Jonathan Taylor. His number 1 running back is Jonathan Taylor versus Brees Hall, so I'd say I got the advantage. His second running back is Pacheco, mine's Cook, so I'd say he gets the advantage there. Wide receiver,
I would
I
say
think that's pretty close.
I would say that's, yeah, I would call that just even.
I like Pacheco. I like him a lot. He got taken pretty early in the second round. I was really hoping he was going to fall to me. He did in a lot of the mock drafts I did, but it wasn't even close.
He normally
Like in my
does,
draft.
and he goes right around the same spot as James Cook. I feel so.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. Either way, even though he went earlier, I think it's still even
Yeah.
spot.
He was the one I wanted most there. Then there was James Cook and Packers running back.
Josh
I can't think of the
Jacobs.
name. Yeah, Josh Jacobs.
I
I
think
wanted
Josh
one of those three. The other two went way before.
right around there. If Derrick Henry was taken, Josh Jacobs would have been who I've taken. And I don't take Packer players unless I'm very convicted on them. So I think
I
he's
wasn't as high on him until Marshawn Lloyd got hurt. So Marshawn Lloyd's going to miss. I mean, now they're saying he might suit up week 1, but I really doubt it. It's going to be the Josh Jacobs show for a while. But
going to be all season.
Marshawn Lloyd looks good. And he's more of the Aaron Jones kind of running back that gets open, makes crazy moves, which I think LaFleur really likes. So that's kind of why I was avoiding Josh Jacobs earlier, but now he's hurt, so we'll see what happens. Wide receivers, we're lining up DK Metcalf versus Pittman. So I'd say I got the advantage. Rashee Rice versus Devonta Smith. That's kind of a toss-up.
I would actually pick Smith over all the other receivers between your two teams. I think Smith is the best receiver on these.
It's going to have a badass season this year. Huh? So you're high on the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm really on the Eagles this year. I think they're another Super Bowl favorite. So yeah, I'm all about the Eagles. I think Devontae Smith is just a better player than the other guys. Metcalf is really good too. I think Metcalf's one of those guys that's gonna always just be like, he's gonna at one point have just an insane season, I think, but I don't know when it's gonna happen. It might just happen once and that's it. He's a freight train running in a straight line, so he could definitely be the best player out of these two, but they're pretty close.
He's the closest thing we've seen to Calvin Johnson since Calvin Johnson. I mean, fucker's huge, fast as shit, can jump a fucking mile in the air. But yeah, his offense has never been fantastic. We'll see how it goes with the new coach in town and see how if Gino is good Gino or bum Gino this year. Time will tell. But DK Metcalf I just like him. He's so huge. He's always a threat for a touchdown anytime they get in the red zone. Like
he's just got those like real high upside games. Like he's just one of those guys that can score 30, 40 points in a week, and then he might score 2 the next week. But like, you know, when you hit those big weeks, you're like guaranteed to win.
Mm-hmm. We got Watson versus Godwin. I guess I'd take Watson over Godwin there.
I like Godwin a lot more. So
yeah,
I think Godwin's really good.
Two flip-flops there.
Yeah.
Then I got Pat Freiermuth versus Evan Ingram. I would definitely take Evan Ingram there.
Even that's still close to even, but yeah, I'd give Evan Ingram a little slight nudge.
Yeah. We got George Pickens versus DeAndre Swift for our flex. I think I'd rather have George Pickens there. So I'd give it to Richard again. We got the Ravens defense, but they're against Kansas City. Or we got the Bengals defense against New England. I think I'd prefer the easier matchup personally.
That's actually very funny.
Defense.
If you think the Chiefs are going to win, you should beat Richard because you have like multiple Chiefs, unless Pacheco goes off. But like, I mean, the Ravens defense should falter while Mahomes has a good game, and like that's going to hurt him a lot. So
yeah,
it's going to be a interesting matchup. But I think since I like the Ravens, I'm going to favor Richard on this one.
I think their defense will do it for him.
I just think
I'm not even going to mention kickers. They're stupid. Next year we got to do a vote if we want to not do kickers. I
thought we did remove them. I didn't even realize they're still in here. But yeah, I think we should have voted that this year. Maybe
we removed them from the other league that we used to do.
The 9-12 league, yeah.
But this league, I think we've kicked it out there a couple times and no one wants to do it. The auction league I do the same thing. There's like a few of us that really want to get rid of kickers. We think they're dumb, but everyone else just.
There's no way.
I think it's a troll thing at this point. They know the few of us want them out, so they're adamant about keeping them in.
Yeah, it's pretty much what they are. They just troll wins every now and then. They're impossible to predict. You can't, like, even if you go off Vegas odds and stuff, it's just impossible. The only time you don't really start kickers if they're like in a bad weather game.
Yeah, if it's outdoors, bad weather, you don't start them. But even then, like, you pick someone up and it's like the best kicker in the NFL and the worst kicker in the NFL are never that far apart in points. It's just they just come in spades on random games. So it's such a wild card. Okay, next matchup we got Tiff versus Lee. Tiff is slightly favored in the scores. Oh yeah, I guess we didn't actually say. So you think Richard will win? I think I'm gonna win that matchup. Anyways, so yeah, Tiff versus Lee. Tiff's got Josh Allen. Lee's got Jordan Love. I mean, I would give it to Josh Allen. Josh Allen doesn't have the weapons he once did, but the guy fucking runs all over the goddamn place and runs for so many touchdowns. So I give Tiff the edge there. I got Jahmyr Gibbs versus Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I think the edge obviously goes to McCaffrey there. I love Gibbs. I think he's awesome, but he splits carries with Montgomery, even if it's 70-30, it's not even close to what McCaffrey gets.
I think Gibbs is also a little overrated this year. I think people think he's going to take a big step, and I think he will, like in real terms, like just skill wise, and it might make him a little more efficient. But they're not going to go away from David Montgomery. This wasn't like hey, we're going to use David Montgomery while Gibbs gets kind of used to the NFL. No, they're complementary players, and Dave Montgomery is still going to get his due as well. So I think Gibbs is going to be kind of more of the same what he was last year, maybe a slightly better, but I don't think he's going to now be like a top 5 pick. Like a lot of people.
I think his season will be overall better because in the beginning of the year, it was definitely like 65-35 Montgomery. I think it'll be more 50-50 the whole season this year. So I think overall Gibson's numbers will be better this season, but I don't think it, like you said, Montgomery's not going away. They'd be foolish to go away from him. He's super good too.
Yeah.
And it's good to have 2 healthy running backs when the cold weather starts rolling in.
But they both got those upside. If the other guy goes injured, then they're like easily a top 5 running back in the league. So
there is that built into them too, yeah.
That's one of the reasons I like David Montgomery, because I'm just like, even though he goes like, the top 20-ish area, like if Gibbs gets injured, he's a lot better. And Gibbs already has a hamstring injury. Those things can linger.
McCaffrey has an injury too, apparently. I think it's his calf.
He's got a hamstring or something. Yeah, he's got
hamstring. Yeah.
Something like that.
Not what you want to see for the first overall pick, but I assume it's just San Fran playing it safe.
That's what I've been hearing.
He doesn't need practice. He knows what he's doing.
I would be afraid to leave my quick fantasy football, though, if Christian McCaffrey
goes down
like more than 2 games. He was so excited to get McCaffrey and then to lose him. And that happened a couple of years ago. McCaffrey's number overall pick, too.
That happened.
He was on Carolina.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 2 years where he missed a good chunk of the season out of like the 6 that he's played.
He was a unanimous number 1 overall pick before, and this is the second time he's been a unanimous number 1 pick. And the last time he was on the Panthers, and he got injured.
He got hurt like super early. It's kind of like Chubb. Not as bad. Chubb was just a high pick last year, but same thing. He was a first rounder, and week 2 just boom, done for the season. All right. So beyond that, we got Devontae Adams versus AJ Brown. I'd take AJ Brown over Adams. I don't like what's going on in Vegas at all. I don't think that team is going to be
AJ
good.
Brown's the better player there at this point.
Yeah, and AJ Brown's just he's younger. Adams is an all-time great, but yeah, Brown's younger, more talented right now. We got DJ Moore for Tiff versus Amari Cooper for Lee. I think I'd rather have DJ Moore there.
Same.
Yeah. We got Cortland Sutton versus Romeo Dubes. I guess I'd probably take Cortland Sutton.
I'm the same boat. I like how there's always random hacker receivers and players throughout people's teams in this league. It does make me laugh. Like, I don't know if Dobbs should be starting on anybody's team, but I hope he works out for him.
It's the Packers wide receivers were just kind of weird. It's hard to it was hard to pick them this year. I want them because I want to root for them, and like I said, part of fantasy is fun. You want them on your team to have fun and cheer for them, but it's like last year was such a revolving door of like who's the receiver this week, who's actually going to get touchdowns and yards.
Right, they're all kind of in the same boat. I think they're all really talented players. I think Dobbs though might be the least talented, at least the least athletic of like the top guys, and that's what I think will hurt him. It's just not having like that same speed as Reed and Watkins and like I think or Watson. Sorry, I think those are the things that are going to hurt him overall. I think he's more of like that possession receiver, so he's going to be like a steady floor guy, but I don't think he's going to offer much upside.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out in Green Bay this year. Tight end, we got Kelsey versus Kittle. Even though I said they'll probably take it easier on Kelsey this year, I would take Kelsey all day in that. Kittle's hard to trust. Kittle gets his 3-4 monster games every season, but I feel like he disappears so often too.
I think one of the things that people are not saying enough, and this is potentially something that's not going to be making Lee happy, is that the best offensive tackle, in my opinion, in NFL history is Trent Williams, and he's holding out right now. And he's also
Oh
the guy
yeah.
that held out a whole season before because he didn't get what he wanted from the Redskins. So there is a very big drop off in production from their quarterbacks when Trent Williams isn't playing. And it affects everyone except for Christian McCaffrey, is from what I was looking at statistically. And that was actually one of the reasons why I did not take Brendan Ayuk in the draft, where even though I love him as a player, I was actually very afraid that Trent Williams will not be playing for half the season. And if he doesn't, I think the whole Niners offense is going to come down a notch. They'll still be solid players, but I don't think they should have gone, where you're picking them. Debo, Ayuk, McCaffrey's probably fine, but even Kittle, I think all three of those guys could be impacted to a point where they might drop like a spot or two in the rankings.
I mean, yeah, even McCaffrey a little bit because he gets so many of those. I mean, he'll still get dump offs, but someone like the designed, some of those more designed like across the middle kind of shits for him. Like you got less time without, like you said, one of the best O linemen in the NFL. If he doesn't play, they might figure it out. I mean, I figure if they figured it out with Ayuk, they got to figure it out with him. Like
my concern is that they played Ayuk and now they're trying to get a discount from Williams because he's older and they're like, hey, this is your last season or two. And I don't think he's willing to do it. He was basically screwed over by Washington. So he doesn't really trust NFL teams anymore, even though I think the Niners are probably better to him than Washington was. But I think he's just one of those guys that just like, I'm going to do my thing. I don't really care about what the optics look like.
yeah, well, we'll see. End of the line is I'd take Kelsey over Kittle in this matchup as the tight end. Flex, we got Jaylen Warren. So kind of the 1B in Pittsburgh running back versus Aaron Jones, Minnesota's new running back. That one's hard to say.
I would take Aaron Jones. I don't think it's
Aaron Jones.
even that close. I think Aaron Jones is the starter, and you're looking at Warren, who will get play, but he's going to get that 10 to 15 touch roll at most, and that's just not enough to produce. I don't think to be like a consistent starter. He's going to have some weeks where he's going to go off, but he's not going to be a consistent week to week guy. So the nice thing about Tiffany's team is she's actually got a very stacked team in some spots, especially if James Conner ends up being the kind of player he's been the last 2 years for Cardinals. Like she's gonna have a really hard team to beat. She can get away with having that higher upside guy there, but yeah, I would still take Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is just better all around.
You give Lee the edge there, and then we got Browns defense versus Dallas and Chiefs defense versus Baltimore. So both those defenses could quite possibly end up in the negative if we have some high scoring games.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a wash. I mean, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I'd give the edge to Tiff. I think I preferred most of her players over Lee's.
I'm the same boat. The only spot I really feel better about Lee's team here is obviously Christian McCaffrey and Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
So his running backs are pretty good. That's a good spot to start. And obviously, Aaron Jones as running back is awesome. So he's got that. The only problem is, I mean, like you said, Adams, he doesn't have a good quarterback. Love, I don't think he produces the same as someone like Allen, and Love has the worst matchup. He's playing against Philly. Philly's a good defense. Arizona, they're not the best defense. I think Allen might have one of those, 30, 40-point games to start out the season. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, the guy's still really good.
They're also playing in, Jordan Love's also playing in, what is it, Brazil? Is that where they're playing?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a home game. It's a flight down there. It's a different stadium. Sometimes those international games wind up as low-scoring affairs.
Most of them do, yeah. They're very heavy on defense because the players are normally exhausted from all the traveling, the time change. I didn't think about that. That's a huge deal.
So we're giving the edge to Tiff on that one. Then we got Jim, versus Mike Henning. So we got Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrow at the quarterback position. I mean, I guess we just said that quarterbacks kind of. Usually international games are low-scoring affairs.
But doesn't it affect Hurts as much? Because Hurts makes a lot of his points on the ground, and I don't know if that impacts as much as passing. So I mean,
Yeah.
they might just go to like, hey, we'll just start doing some short yardage. He gets a couple touchdowns. He might not even throw for very many yards, but he might just catch it on the ground.
Well, and we got Joe Burrow playing against New England, and New England is I mean, they're gonna suck this year, but their defense was good last year. I mean, there were multiple weeks where they held teams to
Yeah, but they
single
traded
digits.
Judon, who's like their best defensive player. So I don't know. I think
I
they're
believe
tanking.
them.
I don't think they're trying to win this year. I think they know. I think it's one reason why Belichick was, kind of politely told, "Hey, your time's up," because I think they want to just kind of blow everything up, start fresh. That's why they drafted the quarterback, take it a couple years. I don't think Belichick was ready for that. So I don't think New England's very good. So honestly, matchup wise, I'd probably take Joe Burrow, but I just think Jalen Hurts is just, like I said, I think he's the best quarterback this year. So I'm pretty much going to take him every week, regardless of matchup.
We got. I mean, I'd give Jalen Hurts the edge there too. Um, Joe Burrow. It's been too long. I gotta see it again before I believe it. It's like I said.
That's true.
It's
He's
just
coming off
been
an
too
injury.
long.
It might take him a couple weeks to really get
Yeah.
back to the swing of things. It's very true. And also for this particular matchup, I have Jamar Chase, so that kind of hinders his Joe Burrow stats.
Oh yeah. You get the counteraction of a lot of
Yeah,
the touchdowns thrown. Then you're lining up Derrick Henry against Travis Etienne. I think I would take Derrick Henry there pretty
definitely close
easily.
to being even, I think. But yeah, I like Derrick Henry more than the consensus, so I'm going to probably take Henry there easily.
Yeah, I would too. Then we got David Montgomery versus Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, Montgomery's in a split backfield. Stevenson's pretty much got the show to himself, but I don't know how many points. I don't know how often the Patriots are going to be in the red zone to actually get running back touchdowns. So
Right. I would say
I'd,
it's an
I'd
area
take
where
David
it's probably
Montgomery.
even. But yeah, I could see Montgomery being the favorite, but I would say it's about an even split. So
We got Jamar Chase versus Justin Jefferson. That's a tough one.
that's probably another one's about even. It's hard to tell
Yeah,
with Jefferson. He's got a new quarterback, so let's see how that
yeah.
impacts him. But Chase has an injured quarterback, but he's finally back, and they have crazy connections. So
Next up, we got third wide receivers. You got Drake London lining up against Malik Neighbors. That's an interesting one. Drake London, a third-year player.
third year, yeah,
It's been good. Just never really had a quarterback that was even like I don't know, top 25 quarterbacks. Quarterbacks have been god awful so far.
right. I'm banking heavily on Kirk Cousins this year. Obviously, I have both Kyle Pitts and Drake London. I just think they're both extremely talented and been held back by coaching and quarterback play. And now I think you have competent coaching and you have one of the better quarterbacks in the league with them. I mean, typically those are the type of teams that go from like, okay to really good overnight. And I just feel like that's what's going to happen with the Falcons. I think their whole offense is stacked. I'm thinking they might be one of the top 5 offenses in the league.
I mean, that was obviously their thought too. They've been stacking up on positions and just trying to get the quarterback right for quite a while now, and
Yep. And they
they
got
finally
one.
decided to pony up and pay a guy in free agency. Malik Neighbors, people are pretty high on him though. Big rookie.
In the
But
draft community, there's a lot of people who think he's better than Marvin Harrison. Like they thought Marvin
mhm.
Harrison was a tier below Neighbors. Like Neighbors is the alpha dog from the draft, and I actually really like him. I just don't like his quarterback. I don't trust that. But I mean, the Lions actually played against the Giants in preseason, and they did like the practices against each other. He was like, I think, targeted like 16 times, caught like 13 of them, had like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns or something in practices. Obviously, that's practice, but like they just said he was uncoverable. And the Lions actually have some pretty good corners this year. That's where they put a lot of their money. So either Lions corners really suck or Neighbors is legit. And I kind of want to assume it's the latter just for my
Yeah,
own mental.
I mean, time will tell. Yeah, I don't trust Daniel Jones. He had that one crazy run at the end of 2 years ago. Got paid, but man,
Yeah.
he looked bad last year, just all year. Um, so I don't trust him. So I don't trust him throwing to a rookie wide receiver. I would give Drake London the edge there. Then we got Jalen Waddle lining up against Zay Flowers. So Kansas City lost their big corner. Zay Flowers, I don't know. I want to believe in Zay Flowers, but I don't yet. I would give it to Waddle there.
I think that's the same thing. I think they're pretty close. it's kind of how fantasy works early in the season, right? I mean, a lot of these guys haven't proven it yet. So, like, yeah, these guys went around the same picks. I just like Jalen Waddle more. I think he's more established. I think he was the better prospect in the NFL draft, and I think he's got that upside of Tyreek Hill going down. So, yeah, I would take Waddle myself.
Waddle's done it. Flowers hasn't. Well, I
Simple as
guess
that.
Waddle there. We got Pitts versus Laporta. I mean, you got to give it to Laporta for now. Maybe this is the year Pitts finally figures it out and is actually a good tight end.
I personally
And
think
it could
Pitts
be. It could
ends
be.
the one, but
I feel like everyone between since Pitts has been in the league since his rookie year. I mean, his rookie year was good for a rookie. He had a ton of yards, but I feel like everyone, if you're in more than one league, like you've had Pitts and you've gone through it and you've been like, this guy, fuck this guy. Maybe it'll turn around now. He's still young as shit, and that offense should be good this year. So
he's
it
like
might
the same
change.
thing as Drake London. I think it's just quarterback play. I'm
Mhm.
pretty hyped. Like I said, I would not be surprised if he's the number one tight end this year. But yeah, Sam Laporta. I mean, we saw what he did. This guy might be the next Travis
Yeah,
Kelce.
that guy was awesome last year. We'll see if
I,
he keeps it up this year.
I'm still in disbelief that the Lions actually drafted a player like that no one really thought was going to be much of anything, and he ended up being like maybe like a superstar. So it's surreal seeing that guy there and being potentially the best tight end in the league. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for your sake, I hope he keeps it up. For my sake, I hope it was a flash in the pan. He
I
doesn't
don't think he is, but yeah, hopefully for you.
Yeah, I hear you. And then you got the wild card on the Lions, Jamison Williams versus Christian Kirk.
Yep.
I'd say I got to give it to Kirk currently.
Yeah, I feel the
Kind
same.
of the same as some of the other ones. I got to see it to believe it.
I think Kirk is underrated. I think he's going to have a really good season. I mean, he's pretty much the like de facto number one there right now. So, I mean, yeah, Jamison Williams has way more upside, but Kirk is going to be again one of those steady floor guys every week. I think he's just going to solidly put up numbers. He'll probably have 1,000 yards, 5, 7 touchdowns. Jamison Williams could literally be benched in 2 weeks for me. So, who knows what's going to happen there? He's very much a high ceiling, low floor guy.
Yeah, Kirk's the man in Jacksonville now, so we'll see how he does with it. I mean, Evan Ingram, I liked Evan Ingram a lot too because same reason. I feel like it's Kirk and Ingram who else you got to throw the ball to. Anyways, defense, we got the Niners against Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. That's Monday Night Football. That'll be a fun game.
Yeah,
and then we got Steelers versus Atlanta.
I'm going to take the Niners. I don't think Aaron Rodgers ever plays well against that Niners defense. He's always been plagued against it. I also am not sure if he's like going to be the same. I think I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers is going to be that good. Last year I felt differently, but this year I think the injury. I think he's just. I don't know. He's more of a show at this point than he is a player. So give me the Niners defense myself.
I don't disagree. I think the NFL is way more fun if he is good and the Jets are good, but it's even his last year in Green Bay, he did not look that he didn't look that good anymore. And then a whole year removed with an injury, and it's just I don't know. I don't know if you can really expect that much from him.
Right. And Jordan Love took pretty much the same receivers, which was the big like thing that why he supposedly didn't play as well and had a better season and isn't supposedly not as good of a player. So yeah. Maybe he is washed.
Then we got the kickers, which again we're not going to talk about. Yeah, I'd say I give you the edge in that matchup.
I think it's really close. I think Heaps did a really good job drafting. Actually, Heaps took a lot of players that I wanted on the bench. He pretty much took at least 2 or 3 players. I really like Blake Corum, and I loved Vlad McConkey, and they both were taken before I could take them because of Heaps. So that's like I feel like if Mike was there, I probably would have got the players I wanted on the bench, but because I was right next to Heaps, he definitely hurt me.
Yeah, I like Dobbins too. I think I was talking about it with Heaps. Like when Dobbins plays, he looks so good. He just always he hurts his leg every fucking year. He never plays a whole season.
He averages like 5.8 yards per carry, and it's like the leading number in the NFL since he's been in the NFL. He's a really good player, but yeah, it's I don't know if he's even made it past week 5 ever. Like,
I know.
He's always injured. So yeah, talent wise, he would be maybe better than Stevenson at the end of the year, but it's gonna be interesting to see if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
I like him.
I will tell. So you're calling it a toss-up. I'm saying you get a little bit of an edge there. Next on, we're on to Scoots against Poor Boy. We got Anthony Richardson, the 2-game wonder, against Kyler Murray. I'm giving it to Kyler Murray. mean, I guess I've technically seen it from Anthony Richardson, but we've seen it for what, 2.5 games? Is that how much he played last year?
Yeah. Um, that's tough. I'm actually going to take Anthony Richardson though. I couldn't stomach myself taking Anthony Richardson in the draft because he's just too high variance. But my personal opinion of Anthony Richardson is I think he's going to be a top 3 quarterback this year. I couldn't do it on paper, but that was what I wanted to do. So I really like Anthony Richardson.
Well, do better fucking take some slides or I don't know. It's
That's my big concern is like he got injured 3 times last year. I had him last year. I loved him. He got injured 3 times, missed 2 games like halfway through, and then he obviously got injured for the season after that, shortly after. So yeah, I was more worried about his like him staying healthy than anything. So that was my biggest concern. But as far as like week 1, I'm taking him, even though I like Kyler Murray a lot too.
I get you. Yeah, I mean Anthony Richardson, part of the that's a high draft pick for a guy who's I feel like is a good chance of not finishing the season.
His
You had to
offensive
spend
coordinator is the
kind of
same
high
one
for
that
that.
took and got Jalen Hurts to where he is today. So I think he's going to play a very similar role to Jalen Hurts. And I think that's just the most valuable quarterback role in the league. It's just the way they play those guys.
Yeah, maybe they'll play it smarter this year. Running back for Scoots we got Devon Achan. For Poor Boy we got Alvin Kamara. What do you think of this? Are you an Achan believer?
Believed in him last year. And I remember drafted him,
You
dropped
gave
him.
up
And he
on him like
was a
1 week
crazy
too soon.
draft pick. Yeah. And I was kicking myself all year. But as far as this year, I like him as a player. I think obviously he's got league winning upside. Like he could be the best running back in the league by the end of the year. But my concern is that I think the Miami running back carousel is just if they're going to pick the hot hand. I don't think he's going to be like a focused point in their offense. I think he's going to be more of like a gadget player overall. I don't think he's going to be nearly as effective as last year. I think it's kind of more of a flash in the pan. Sometimes players just have a couple good weeks. It's hard to tell with him, but I really like Kamara a lot, so I'm definitely taking Kamara. I wasn't a big fan of Achan this year. I would have probably been fading in most drafts. He was going too high.
He was kind of expensive this year, so I didn't get him anywhere either. But I like him. I think he's going to be awesome. It is going to be it's going to be a committee there. I mean, there's no reason for him to go away from Mostert, who was so fucking awesome last year.
Yep.
And like he's old, but Mostert's still like the third fastest guy in the NFL behind Achan and Tyreek Hill, like all Dolphins players.
Right.
It's just
That
fucking dumb.
offense is big.
But I think they're gonna have enough design plays for Achan. Like I think he's too talented for Mike McDaniels to not get him involved in games. But yeah, he's not
Honestly,
going to be a bell cow. He does have the upside, kind of like the Lions running backs, though. Like if Mostert gets hurt, he might just absolutely fucking dominate, unless he gets hurt too, because he is a smaller guy.
right.
But I'd lean Achan on that
That's
one.
one of the first things we've disagreed on. We've been pretty
Yeah.
much agreeing on everything. But yeah, I'll take Kamara there. But yeah, I don't mind Achan.
Plus, it's week 1. Mike Daniels wants to put on a show. They'll do some crazy shit. Then when running back number 2, we got Javonte Williams, Denver running back, versus Rashad White, Tampa Bay running back. I'd take Rashad White, I guess. I don't prefer either guy a ton over the other.
I like Javonte Williams quite a bit more than Rashad White. I don't think Rashad White is necessarily that good of an actual player. I think he was more just kind of the beneficiary of just not really anyone else around him. I actually took their backup running back because I just don't think White's going to last the whole year. But I think as far as like draft order and stuff, you kind of have to take White. So I would just lean that way. But I do think Williams is the better player. Just not as good a situation.
I mean, for running back, offense matters a lot.
Yep.
If you're not getting down to the red zone, you're not getting the points you need. Wide receiver, we got an interesting one. We got Tyreek Hill versus CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's listed as out on my screen that I'm looking at.
Me too. I'm curious what that's all
Something
about.
happened?
Yeah, watch him be injured for the season already.
I gotta look this up quick. I mean, I'll take Tyreek Hill over CeeDee Lamb if
August 27th. Was that known? The Cowboys were granted a 2-game roster exemption for Lamb Tuesday. Placed him on the commissioner's exempt list.
27th would have been. That was before he got. Was that before he got signed?
Oh, it seems like some
He
kind
got
of
signed
weird
very
thing.
recently.
There's not any indication that the number one receiver is in danger of missing any action. So it doesn't sound like it's anything like
Okay.
it's just more of like a
guessing ESPN just hasn't updated since he signed his contract.
Yeah, so
he wasn't showing up to practice or anything, right? He was kind of like I'm not showing up for shit until I get paid. He got paid like 2 days before the draft. I don't.
Yeah.
It was Ayuk that just got paid.
Yeah, a couple
Whatever.
guys.
I presume
Chase
he's
is also
playing.
in that
I would
position.
have seen something on somewhere if he was actually not playing.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know why
that's a
they have listed
huge
as not.
draft buzz news right there. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a formality thing. It looks like so.
Yeah, probably. I take Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's hard to
I think it's a
pick
wash for
anybody
me.
over Tyreek Hill. You're pretty high on CD.
I think they're both in the same boat. I guess if you had to put a gun to my head, I'd take Hill. But yeah, I think they're pretty much in the same tier. I think they're in the same position. You know, either week, the other one could be better.
Next one down, we got Marvin Harrison Jr., the rookie sensation, versus Stephon Diggs, Houston's newest wide receiver.
I'm taking Diggs.
You take Diggs? I'm taking Harrison.
I would take Diggs because it's early in the season. Rookies take a little bit to get adjusted. I also think Diggs was going underdrafted because of the whole too many mouth to feed argument. I don't think that's really a thing in the NFL. So I actually like Diggs a lot this year. So I would have had him higher ranked than Harrison. I would never take Harrison. He was going way too early for me.
I mean, Harrison went way too early in the draft for me as well, but they're playing against Buffalo. It's yeah. Diggs playing against Indy. I don't know. I don't know if Diggs. He's still talented, but I disagree with the too many mouth speed. It's CJ Stroud. Like he only did the one. I mean, the season was awesome, but he's got two guys that he's played with and that he likes and that he knows. I mean, Diggs has been there for the whole off season, so we'll see. I don't see Diggs being a number one wide receiver anymore. I think he's like a number two wide receiver. Whereas Harrison could be a number one.
Yeah, I definitely would say like upside. You definitely have to go Harrison, but yeah, I think Diggs is just. I think he's gonna be a solid. Like you said, number two. That's fine. If he's a solid number two, I'm good with it.
Okay, so we're on opposite poles there. We got Cooper Kupp versus Calvin Ridley. I'll take Kupp all day. I think Kupp. It sounds like Puka's kind of hurt too. He might still play, but I mean, Stafford and Cooper Kupp, that might be their last season together. I think they're going to put on a show this year.
I agree. Honestly, Cooper Kupp is, in my opinion, the third best receiver out of these receivers. So the fact that he's the fifth one we're talking about is kind of funny. But yeah, I would have taken him right after CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to be really good this year.
Yeah, I'm on the flip side, Calvin Ridley. Who's their quarterback in Tennessee again? I mean, if he's good, Calvin Ridley will be good.
The guy eats bananas with the peel.
Yeah.
He puts like mayo in his coffee, but I can't remember his name. Levis.
Yeah, Will Levis. Yeah. He showed flashes, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with Tennessee.
They get some talent. If Will Levis is good, Ridley will be fine. There's some other players on the team that'll be good, but I'm fading Tennessee 100%. I don't trust Will Levis. Didn't like him in the NFL draft. Didn't really think he was that special in the actual league. I think he showed some flashes, but I think he's just going to be overall a poor player. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Ridley.
Titans are doing what a lot of teams do. They got the quarterback that they think might be good, so they're trying to load some talent around him and see what they got before they have to pay him.
We got to try.
We'll see how it plays out this year with them.
You got to start somewhere. Got the young player. You got to see what they can do.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Tight end, we got Trey McBride versus Brock Bowers. That's an interesting one. I mean, I'm gonna take Trey McBride. Brock Bowers could be this year's Sam Laporta. Definitely possible. But the team just sucks. That's the problem.
Yep. Yeah, and the quarterback isn't good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, by default, you have to take Trey McBride. He's probably not as talented as Brock Bowers. Not many people are. I mean, a lot of people think he might be one of the better prospects of all time at tight end. So, like, he might be crazy good, like you said, but, like, it's just hard with the quarterback play there. It'd be hard for me to draft him and trust him.
Yeah. So, yeah, we take McBride. He's good. He's proven. For the flex, we got running back Chuba Hubbard for Carolina versus Samir White. Okay, another Las Vegas player. I guess I'll not really like either one of these players very much, but I don't even know what to pick. I'm calling it a wash.
I don't even really know who Zamir White is. And this is coming from me who follows the draft and everything. I know he was a rookie. I don't really know much about him, so I don't really have an opinion on it.
Samir
Chuba
White.
Hubbard was pretty
Oh,
good the
Samir White
last
was
couple.
there last year.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, so he did pretty good. He's kind of like Josh Jacobs' backup, but when he came in, he did good. I think he had better like yards per carry than Jacobs did last year, so that's why people are kind of high on him.
Okay.
But it just again, it's a running back for a what I think is going to be a shitty offense. Like I can't see him
And
producing
they're
that
both
much.
bad offenses, both kind of like
Yeah,
lackluster games. So yeah, I would say watch is fine.
yeah. And then we got Cowboys D versus Cleveland. I think Cowboys were the number one D last year by a fucking mile. I don't know if they will be again this year, but and then we got Dolphins against Jacksonville. I guess I would probably take Cowboys D there.
Same. It's hard to say. Defenses are always kind of hard to predict, but I mean they're both playing against somewhat okay offenses, but not crazy good offenses. So yeah, I guess I would take and give the Cowboys the advantage just because I think they're the better overall defense.
Yeah. So all that being said, I think I give Scoots the advantage there. On to the next one. We got Jackie versus Vicky. Our wives playing against each other. Or wife and fiance. You guys aren't technically married yet.
Getting married on the 21st. We got about 19 days to go, and then
Yeah.
she'll be my wife.
Yeah. We'll be there. We're looking forward to it. So Jackie's got C.J. Stroud. Vicky's got Jared Goff. I give it to Stroud. What do you think? You think Jared Goff's better than C.J. Stroud?
I think they're in real NFL. They're close. Obviously, CJ Stroud one of the best offense or quarterback seasons of all time for a rookie. But he also plays against what I think is the worst defense in Indianapolis. So I would give him the benefit of the doubt here. But
Give it to
that
Stroud.
could go either way.
Yeah. Then we got that's an interesting one. We got Saquon Barkley, Philly's new running back versus Josh Jacobs, Green Bay's new running back. Yeah, give it to Josh Jacobs. I think LaFleur is good at making his running backs look good.
So when I did mock drafts for prepping, I took Saquon Barkley in almost every draft
I love
because
him.
I was a big fan of him, and none of the receivers I really wanted fall to me. So I thought I was taking Barkley. So obviously, that said, I like him more than Josh Jacobs, who I also really like. But I just think talent wise, Barkley is one of the best talents that we've seen at running back in a long time. And I think he's ready to really show the NFL that he was just being held back by a terrible Giants organization. So, yeah, I could easily see Barkley being the number one running back in the league. I don't think Josh Jacobs really has that unless, people get injured in front of him. So give me Barkley.
We're on opposite sides there. Then we got Kenneth Walker, Seattle's running back versus Najee Harris, Pittsburgh's running back. I give it to Kenneth Walker there. I love Walker. I think he's super good. If their offense can get rolling this year, he'll be awesome. Pittsburgh, I don't see how their offense gets rolling this year. Najee will still be good. He'll get the bulk of the work, but yeah.
Kind of a wash for me. I honestly think they're kind of both in the same boat. They don't really have the greatest offenses. They're both kind of like the bell cow running back, but then they also still have like solid backups behind them and have some risk built into like maybe losing snaps to those guys. So my deciding factor would probably be the receiving upside of Harris. So I guess I would look at the matchup and then go from there. But yeah, I guess Najee this week I would probably take Walker because he's going against Denver. But I think most weeks I'd probably take Najee Harris just because of the receiving upside. So
All right.
Walker for this week.
Then we got the wide receiver ones for each team. We got Puka Nakua himself versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love Puka. My team's still named after him, even though he's not on my team anymore. I'll have to change that at some point. But Amon-Ra, I mean, the dude's insanely good. He catches like fucking 12 passes a game. Stupid.
As a Lions fan, I've never going into the draft that year, I loved Amon-Ra St. Brown. I thought he was a really good like third, fourth round pick, and I think we got him in the fourth, right, or fifth. But I was never as high on him as the rest of the fan base. Pretty much throughout his whole career, I always thought like, okay, when people are like, "Oh, he might be a legitimate number one receiver," I'm like, nah, he's more of a number two guy. He's a slot guy. I can't do it. He's proved me wrong at every point of his career since the draft. So yeah, I think he's better than Puka Nakua, who I think is also incredible. I think they're very similar, but I would give Amon-Ra St. Brown the advantage just because he's done it for a couple more years. And I think him and Goff just have this uncanny, like, they might be the two best quarterback receivers as far as chemistry in the league at this point. Like they know each other so well, and it's so unstoppable. Like, and Amon Ra is probably the best receiver in the league when it comes to just like in that first 5 yards. You just can't get your hands on him. He's so good in short areas, which lines up perfectly with Jared Goff, who's really good at like the intermediate throws. So yeah, give me Amon Ra.
Yeah, like you said, two super talented dudes, but that seems easy anyways. The next lineup, we got an interesting one. We got Brandon Ayuk, San Francisco wide receiver, versus Debo, San Francisco wide receiver. Who do you like more, Brandon Ayuk or Debo?
I like Ayuk more. Like I said before, I was really eyeing Ayuk, but the Trent Williams things really kind of cooled me off. That was kind of like my deciding factor between him and Drake London. I would take Ayuk. I think they're both really good. I think Debo Samuel worries me because he gets injured a lot because of his play style. I'd rather have the more traditional player in Brendan Ayuk, who I think is one of the top 12, 15 receivers in the league just as a pure receiver. Debo Samuel's more of like that gadget player, so he can be really high variance, where I think Ayuk's just kind of like, you're steadily getting like 10 to 15 points from a week. So I would go with Ayuk, but they're pretty close.
I'd go Ayuk too, but yeah, it's hard to say because sometimes you just get those weeks where the Debo gets those, jet sweeps and shit where they just pan the ball off to him. It's hard to say with those two. Um, Wide receiver 3, we got Tank Dell, Houston's wide receiver, against T. Higgins, Cincinnati's wide receiver. It's kind of like the wide receiver 2s for respective teams. I think I like, that's a tough one. I think I like Tank Dell more. What
I
about
want to
you?
lie. I don't really know Tank Dell that well. I didn't follow the Houston Texans season that much. I didn't really follow anything but the Lions season last year, and he kind of came out of nowhere. So I think he's like a bigger guy, more possession receiver. I don't really have a strong opinion of him. I like T. Higgins a lot. I guess I would have to just go with what the rankings say. And I think Tank Dell normally outrank T. Higgins all year. So I'll give it to Tank Dell, but I don't have a strong opinion either way.
Yeah, fair enough. Then we got Goddard, Phillies tight end, versus Kincaid, Buffalo's tight end. I'd say I'd give it to Kincaid. I don't think he has target competition there like Goddard does. I think Kincaid will be. He almost has to be good this year, unless the Bills are just going to suck. He's
He's the
got to
number
get
one
a lot
receiver.
of catches.
He is the number receiver. I actually really like Dalton Kincaid this year. I was going to take him before I took Pitts, and then someone took Kincaid in front of me, and then I had to change my draft plan. I think I waited around for Pitts at that point, but I was really, really wanting to get Kincaid. So, yeah, I'm gonna take Kincaid here all day.
Yeah. For the flex, we got scary Terry McLaurin, Washington's wide receiver, against Jason Smith and Jigba, Seattle's wide receiver. Who's Washington's new quarterback now?
Can't name his
Do you
name
remember?
because I'm bad at these things. He's the rookie.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, they got a rookie wide receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba's, this is his second year. He didn't do much last year.
Aiden Daniels,
Yeah, Jaden
former
Daniels.
LSU quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, if he can be good, Terry McLaurin can be good. Finally, he's I look at him the same way as look at like Drake London, like super talented. Just he's been struggling to find a good quarterback. Maybe this will be the year. Jackson Smith and Jigma. The problem is he's behind DK Metcalf, and I don't know. I
There's
would
just
take
a
Terry
Lockett there
McLaurin
too. Yeah,
and Tyler Lockett's there too. Yeah, I mean he's pretty old. I don't know how relevant he'll be this year, but
I guess the
he seems
rumors
to
have
always stay
flipped in the
relevant.
past years, so I think that's kind of what's lowering him. A lot of people think he might not be there, but I still think they're going to kind of go with him. I mean, he's just been good for a long time, so I think JSN's going to still kind of sit for another year, just kind of like he'll be productive. They'll probably have three good receivers, but I think he might be the third one in that list. And obviously, Terry McLaurin, he's the starter, he's the number one receiver on his team. And like you said, he's just been doing it for a while with bad quarterback plays. So I mean, if Jaden Daniels is even good, like Terry McLaurin might be a really big steal in the draft. So I'm going to take Terry McLaurin. I really like him.
All right, and then defense, we got Saints D against Carolina. It's a good matchup. Then we got Seahawks D versus Denver. Another good matchup. It's almost a wash. Playing against two shitty teams.
These are the people that did drafting defense right. You don't really take the big name. You take the team that plays against the bad team. So, I
Yeah,
mean, you got Carolina, you got Denver, you got a rookie quarterback, and one of the worst rookie quarterback performances we've seen in a long time from the
yep.
other teams. So, like, yeah, it's kind of a hard one. It's more of a wash, but yeah, I'm thinking both these girls, they did the right thing by drafting their defenses late and they picked ones with good matchups. So,
Yeah. I guess all that being said, I think overall I lean more towards Vicky's team, but it's gonna be close.
it's crazy how close they were because I think I picked more of Jackie's players, but when I look at their rosters from top to bottom, I do like Vicky's team quite a bit more. So I think just where Vicky put some of her position, because obviously she took quarterback late, so I think she's just got a better roster from top to bottom because of that. So as long as she's picking the right quarterback each week, she's going to be really hard to beat.
See how she plays out. And one more matchup, if anyone's still listening. We got
Honestly, this
yeah.
I think we might cut out this part because we've like spent a whole hour on this, and this might not
Yeah.
be the best thing to listen to. This might just be for us.
This, we can leave it in. We'll see if anyone listens. If they don't, then
Put it out there and
we'll
just
cut her out next time, or we can
yeah.
be more succinct with it next time. I guess. I'm
Well,
sure
how
there's
about
a
we
way
just
to do
keep the
that.
whole thing out? We post it and then not really edit it much and just see what people liked and just let
Yeah,
them respond.
we
Be like,
can
hey,
do that.
what
Yeah.
parts did you like the most? It's going to be a boring listen, so don't listen to the whole thing. Maybe skip parts, but you just let us know what worked and what didn't.
Yeah. All right. So this one we got Ashley versus Andy Carson's. I
Yep.
said Andy. So we got Justin Herbert as Ashley's quarterback against Lamar Jackson's for Carson's. I'll take Lamar Jackson all day there. Herbert's good, but it sounds like he's hurt. He's got plantar fasciitis or something, so he can't use his legs properly or his foot. I don't fucking know. Plus, it
I know
sounds
that
like
sounds hurt.
Harbaugh just wants to run the fucking ball all day, every day over there. So I don't know how productive he's going to be this season.
I think that's kind of those things that people always hear every year, and I don't think it really matters. I think NFL teams just they know they have to throw. Yeah, he might run more than they used to, but I still think they're going to throw a lot. I think Justin Herbert's going to be solid, but yeah, you can't bet against Lamar Jackson. That guy's been one of the top three quarterbacks since he's been starting. He's incredible. So yeah, give me Lamar.
This is a fun one. We got Bijan versus Kyron Williams. Um, Bijan was good, not great last year, but the offense is looking to be a lot better this year. And then we got Kyron, fucking just came out of fucking nowhere last year and just, I think he was the number 2 running back behind Christian McCaffrey last year, even though he
Yeah,
wasn't the starter week 1. Just Cam Akers
and he missed a
got
couple
cut,
games.
and Kyron Williams is the badass of the season. It was a pretty wild ride to watch. I didn't have him anywhere. Would have been fun
I
if I
had him in
did.
every league I was in, which was one league, but
Did
I,
you?
I actually really
Yeah.
loved him last year, and I would have probably taken him in every league I was in. I was taking him all over the place if I would have been able to. I liked him a lot. I just like those type of players that like I pretty much guarantee myself I know is going to start on a decent offense, and like they go really late. I don't understand why people are worried about him. But this year, I'm actually very worried about Blake Corum. I think he's going to lose snaps to Blake Corum. Kyron Williams is not the most athletic player. Blake Corum isn't either, but like he's the most athletic running back on that team, and he played really good in Michigan, and he's a great goal line back. So I think Kyron Williams is going to lose some snaps, and even though it might not be a big deal, but I think whenever you talk about a starter being your number one punt returner, that might be a tell sign that you might not use him as like a bell cow. So I think he's going to lose some snaps. I actually felt like he was one of the worst picks in the draft because I know he went kind of early. But yeah, I'm not a big Kyron Williams fan. Give me Bijan Robinson. I think he's going to be fighting with Christian McCaffrey for the number one spot and Saquon Barkley. So and I guess Brees Hall too, but I would put them all in the same category, right under Tyreek or Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, Bijan, he's good.
You're big on Atlanta's offense this year. I'd take Kyron. I mean, he was just too good last year.
Okay.
Athletic, speed, I mean, all that shit. I mean, I do understand they drafted a new guy in the second round this year. Um, or was it late first round? I can't remember, but I don't know. Kyron was just too good. I don't know how you just be like, I get it. He won't be the bell cow he was last year, and Bijan will be a bell cow for as close as you get to it nowadays. But yeah, Kyron Williams in the LA Rams offense it's proven to be fucking spectacular. I would take him over Bijan personally.
Kind of funny
But
being the person that drafted Kyrie Williams and potentially winning my league because of it, because that's just kind of what those players do. I'm like that big of a fan of him in year two, but yeah, I mean, I can't argue. He was really good. He was incredible. Like every week, you'd just be like, "Oh, he's gonna earn 20 points." I'm like, I didn't even know how he got there, but he got 20 points. He'd always get like 2 touchdowns and 100 yards like every week. It was nuts. He was
yeah,
great.
he was insane. Yeah, their offense was just it's been good the entire time McVay's been there. It's hard to bet against him at this point. Um, yeah, the only question is how big is Williams' role this year? Running back 2, we got Brian Robinson Jr., Washington running back. He was pretty fucking awesome last year for like a kind of random name. Then we got Tajay Spears, Tennessee running back. Yeah, I think I'd take Brian Robinson.
Is Tajay Spears even starting? Because they got Pollard there too, right?
Yeah, I think they're calling it like a 1A, 1B. So it sounds like it's gonna be a split.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
guess
I think Pollard's 1A.
gotcha. And I guess Robinson has some, threat for his carries too, but that's a tough one. But I'm going to probably pick Brian Robinson. He's the type of running back that does well early in the season too, because he's just kind of like one of those plotter guys who's just good between the tackles. And like when teams are still trying to figure it out, sometimes I just go back to the basics. That's what Brian Robinson's good at. So I would definitely take Brian Robinson there. I don't really know much about Tajay Spears, but I'm not really happy about Tennessee players at all. I'm pretty much avoiding all of them this year.
Yeah, I mean he was good when Derrick Henry was when they split carries. Tajay Spears looked good, but I don't know. We'll see. Wide receiver, we got Chris Olave for New Orleans against Garrett Wilson for the Jets. So we got the. I mean, I guess straight up, I would take Garrett Wilson. I believe more in old Aaron Rodgers than I do in young Derek Carr or
That's a really
their
tough
age
one for
Derek
me.
Carr. I mean, they're both super talented. I think their talent level is about the same, but I just trust the quarterback more, even though it is old Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm gonna go towards Wilson. I think he might just have a little more upside, but I if it was like a draft, honestly, I'd probably take Olave. So maybe I'm going against Miles. Screw it. I'm gonna go Olave. That's
Taking
who
a
I'd
lot.
draft in the actual draft. So
All right. Then we got wide receiver 2. We got Nico Collins versus Mike Evans. Personally, I think I'd take Nico Collins. I think he's wide receiver 1 for a good offense. Mike Evans is a wide receiver 1 for that's also a good offense. I think Houston's is better though, and sooner or later Mike Evans has to fall off, right? I mean, how many years can you get? How many years can you fucking get 1,000 yards in a row?
I'm gonna go with Mike Evans because until he stops doing it, I'm just gonna trust that he's good for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Like he's gonna be a Hall of Famer. He's still good. I liked him this year just because you always know what you're gonna get, and sometimes I just like that. Nico Collins, he kind of came out of nowhere last year. He might just be this crazy good receiver. He just needed the quarterback to set him up. So this could look really bad by the end of the year. But yeah, give me Evans.
All right, and then wide receiver 3, we got Deontay Johnson, Carolina's wide receiver 1 now, new on the team against Jaden Reed, Packers wide receiver. I think I would take Deontay Johnson. Honestly, I think he's talented. I think it's the best wide receiver Bryce Young will have thrown to so far in his career. If you think he's better than Adam Thielen, old Adam Thielen, Jaden Reed, I don't know. I don't think he's Green Bay's number 1 wide receiver, even though he got drafted that way. I don't even know if he's Green Bay's number 2 wide receiver. I wasn't. I love Reed. I love Jaden Reed as a Packer fan, but I don't think he's Green Bay's top target at all.
That's surprising. I actually really like Jaden Reed. I thought he was going to be one of the top players this year, but he didn't really get the hype I expected. I think that's because there's just like a log jam of receivers at Green Bay. So I think just by default, I would pick Deontay Johnson because I just don't know what is going on in Green Bay. I don't follow the team well enough to know like what the hierarchy of those receivers are going to be. I know for a fact that Deontay Johnson's pretty darn good. He might not be able to catch everything, but as far as route running, speed, and nuances in his position, he's one of the better players in the league. So hopefully he can put it together and make Bryce Young look like a competent player because he was just put in a terrible situation last year. Maybe just having one trustable player that's not 35 years old is what he needs. So yeah, I don't mind Deontay Johnson this year. I think he might be really solid. And honestly, if Young is as good as I thought he was going to be, this might be the best quarterback Deontay Johnson has played with, because I think Young really just had a really bad situation last year, maybe the worst situation we've seen a quarterback put in a long time. So he just might need a little bit better talent around him, and that's what Johnson offers.
Yeah, Bryce Young, I don't. I mean, they traded for Thielen just to have somebody from to throw to, and he actually made Thielen look pretty fucking legit for most of the season last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, their offense is bad. Other than the week they played Green Bay, and they looked pretty good
Yeah, they
that
went
week.
off that week. I remember that.
That was
That's like when
that was
everyone's like, "Oh, we need
that
to
was painful
fire
to watch.
Barry,"
Yeah.
when freaking Young goes up. I think Young really did show a lot last year. He was just in a really bad position. And the biggest problem with him, I think that makes him look worse, is that CJ Stroud was so good that everyone was just like, "Wow, they made the worst decision ever." But
Oh
I
yeah.
think this year, I think you're going to see a lot of people turn their opinion on Young. I think he's an
Uh,
actually solid player.
Time will tell on those guys. I feel like that happens fairly often in the NFL, and you forget about it because it's 10 years later. But one guy gets
Right.
drafted, the other has an awesome rookie season, and then the other guy's the actual good quarterback overall.
Right. Yeah, it takes years, man. It does. It's
But
not just a 1 year thing.
yeah. Tight end, we got Mark Andrews versus Njoku. I think Mark Andrews is one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I'd give it to him all day, every day, as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, that's his big thing. He seems to get injured
Yeah,
all the time. But yeah, I mean, that's not even a decision for me. I'm just taking Mark Andrews, and I'm not even thinking about Njoku. I don't think they're very close.
yeah, me neither. Then we got Raheem Mostert versus Miami's running back versus Chase Brown. Since he's running back aside Zach Moss, I'd take Mostert. I could see Miami doing the same thing they did last year, where Mostert's still kind of the RB1. He gets fucking. I don't know if he's gonna get 20 plus touchdowns this year, but I could see him getting fucking 10 again easily. Chase Brown, I don't know what's going on over there with him and Zach Moss. I don't even know. I think Zach Moss is technically the starter, but I'm not 100% sure.
I think Chase Brown's value is propped up a lot because Zach Moss is just not exciting on any level. So it's just like hoping that Chase Brown's going to be the guy that is the exciting player in that backfield. They just might not really have that good of a running game. You know, they're going to just, they got Burrow, they got Higgins, and they got Chase. They got a couple other good receivers too. And I think they're just going to probably throw it all around. I mean, we know that Burrow's okay doing that. So I'm not really a fan of any running back on their team. Mostert, yeah, I think he's going to come down a little bit. He's not going to be the number 2 running back this year. Obviously, he's not being drafted that way either. But I think he's still a really solid player. I'm actually shocked at how late he was going. I wish I kind of found a way to get him on my team, to be honest, because I think he's going to outperform his draft slot by quite a bit. So,
Yeah, he dropped so much this season. It seems like it's all just because Achan had, like 4 or 5 really fucking awesome games.
he was good in those games too. It wasn't like it was just
Yeah, that's
Achan
true.
and then no one didn't use Mostert. It was just Achan just did a lot with little. You know, Achan had like 5 carries and like 200 yards one game. It's just like, okay, that's kind of nuts. So I think they're both startable. So yeah, Mostert's gonna be good. Solid pick.
And then defense, we got the Jets defense against San Fran, Monday Night Football. Then we got Falcons defense versus Pittsburgh. I mean, I would take the better matchup. I'll take Falcons against Pittsburgh.
Falcons put so much money into that defense the last 2 years too. Like they might be just one of those teams that's just going to be really good next year everywhere. Their defense was really good last year. Now they have all the young skill positions with their offense and Kirk Cousins, which generally props up your defense to be even better. So they had a terrible offense last year and still put up good defensive numbers. So yeah, I mean Falcons could just be the team this year. I mean maybe they're just, you take every Falcon player in defense and just you do good in fantasy this year. That's what I'm thinking. So yeah, give me Falcons.
All
Overall,
right.
the season though, I'd take the Jets.
Yes, I mean same, but it's defenses are pretty week to week dependent, I feel.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'd take Carson's in that matchup personally. Well, that wraps up the the upcoming matchups. Went a little long. I think significantly longer than we expected.
There's
Tried
only
to
like
find some ways to trim back, cut back, make
2
it
times
more
longer than all the other ones.
yeah. But yeah, I don't
It was
know.
fun.
Any other closing words from you?
I'm just I'm having a lot of fun in this league. I just wanted to hopefully everyone that does listen to it, if they do get to hear this, I think it's really cool that everyone's really trying and just like putting in their effort to be good at this. Not even like, taking weeks to like figure out who's the best players, but just like week to week, managing your team, picking up players, making it fun just by like talking smack. Like everyone that's joined this league really didn't have any higher fantasy football knowledge, and that was kind of why we built this league, was to really get other people to play fantasy. And like I said, I quit my other league because it was just getting too hard to manage. Like people just weren't trying. They would put their money in and then they wouldn't show up for the draft, or I'd have to do an online draft because they just wouldn't commit. And it's just like a breath of fresh air seeing this, even though like people in this league didn't even know what they're doing 3 years ago. And now they're actually getting good. They're trying, and it's been a lot of fun. I've actually loved this league now, and I think everyone that's participated, and I also thank you and Jackie for really putting the time and effort into running it, because I kind of put it on the back burner because I was so busy with the 920 league, and I never really had the time to run both. Running a league takes a lot of work sometimes. So thank you for taking over and really making this league a lot of fun, and it's really grown to something great.
Yeah, I love this league. It's my favorite league by far. I mean, I'm only in two of them, but yeah, this one's fun. It's all people that I know that I'm close with. So it's every match is always fun. Win or lose. I've won one time in the 10 years of this league. But it's regardless, it's always a blast.
Right. Yeah. Win or lose, I always have fun here, where I couldn't say with the 920 league. The 920 league, you and I have pretty much gone back and forth winning that league a lot, and you're pretty serious in it at times. And it's like, even then, I didn't have as much fun as I'm having in this league. So
Yeah,
it really proves what the main goal is.
it's harder. And I mean the live draft, which I'm so glad we do every year now. It's a fun day. It's a fun day every year. It's fun getting everyone together. So yeah, I guess that'll pretty much wrap it up. Thanks anyone who actually listened through this whole thing. If you didn't, that's fine. It did get pretty long. We'll, like I said, this is the pilot episode. We'll figure it out as we go. We'll cut it. I think we want to be closer normally to like 30 to 45 minutes rather than
Not
an
an
hour and
hour
a
and a
half or
half.
whatever the fuck we did today. Yeah, that's a pretty long one. But
This is
I
gonna be
don't
a
know how
hard
much people
list.
listen to podcasts. I don't know how people actually listen in general, but we'll see, and we'll figure out as we go.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and good luck this week.
Football's back.